boom, boom. We are back, people. What is up? Senior Bowl, day 2 practice. Let me make sure I'm good. And it looks like it. Okay, cool. Awesome. Another fun day, Senior Bowl. We got a lot of clips to pull through, go over some more standouts, some guys that, continued on a strong day 1, or some guys who may be improved from day 1 to day 2. Once we go over this, and you take all of these things, this shouldn't, this is a part of the evaluation. It shouldn't change your whole opinions on players. Usually I use it for oh, this guy did something different at the Senior Bowl than I saw on film, so then I go back and watch the film, or it allows me to go and find some new things about some guys that I like, some guys that are popping out, like someone from Elijah Arroyo from Miami. I always liked his route running ability and his ability as a receiver, and he's showing that at the Senior Bowl, and so that was confirmed. But also he came in at 6'5", 250, and he didn't really get asked to do a lot of inline blocking stuff at Miami. So now I want to go and scour the film and see if I can find any blocking reps on tape, and see if there's any sort of potential there in that area. Hopefully I'm not. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's a little laggy. Hopefully everything's good once people start getting in here. Let people come in before I start just showing the film. I think, yeah, Gray Zabel, another strong day. North Dakota State is continuing to impress in every rep that I've seen from him. Not having too many losses, which are going to happen in those one-on-ones. But yeah, Zabel, made that video on him, film breakdown, absolute dog. The combination of athleticism, foot quickness, getting to his spots, playing with quality technique, and then his tenacity to finish is one of my favorite aspects of his game. Yeah, my frames are all over the place today. Great. Let me open up this, see what's going on. Here we go. Okay. Well, might be a little bit laggy, so hopefully that's not too big of a problem. But yeah, I think Darius Alexander, Toledo defensive tackle. I really like Darius Alexander. He's someone I plan to make a video on, film breakdown. He had a strong day in 101s. I'm sure we'll see some clips of him. But that's something I think I recognized on the film from him, a guy that dominated some of his competition. Especially as a run defender. But you could see the power at the point of attack, shock in his hands. I love guys that have those shock in their hands that can reset the line of scrimmage and hold his own, use his length. He understands how to use his length, get control, stack and shed, and that showed up on the film. And then we get to see some of the pass rush potential, because his pass rush was not as consistent on film for me, but he did flash that ability. I just think sometimes he was late off the ball, but you could clearly see he could, collapse a pocket with some power. What? Let me make sure this is good. Trying to go there. Pull up some clips here in a second. Start here. So this was the big clip of the day. You've probably seen this if you were on Twitter. This was Mike Green versus Connerly. So 2 guys that will probably go in the first round. So let me pull this up. I have a better video of it. Yeah, this one's good. So here we got up here, Green going versus Connerly, who's that right tackle. Look at the pop. Connerly got absolutely flattened. And I like seeing this from Green. I still, obviously it's 1 rep, it's not that big of a deal, but damn. Connerly getting put on his back. Maybe not, he tried to jump set him here. Maybe not used to playing right tackle because Connerly played left tackle at Oregon. But I love seeing the power and pop there from Green, because he's known for his ability as a pass rusher, but all the stuff you see on film is how explosive and bendy he is But the fact that he has this ability to convert speed to power, look at him get into that chest and just put in that. And that's not against like nobody. That's someone who's probably going to be a first round player for him to do that. Like Green is one of the better players, I believe, at the Senior Bowl, just in general, and one of the better players in the class. Oh, nope. Not what I wanted. Let's see what else we got. I know Tez Johnson, he continued his good day. Like, I know people will have questions because he's very undersized. I think Tez Johnson's going to be good at the next level. And it's not like if he gets injured because of his size, that is definitely, I think, the most worrisome thing. But I think like play style wise, like he plays stronger than 155, and he's just a natural at getting open. Like he just really has a good understanding of like how to manipulate pace, tempo. He's quick twitch, runs really crisp and explosive routes, and just gets open very consistently. And I think he would be like a very solid like number 3 option at the next level for a lot of teams. Yeah, Tez is very small. Like super small, like 5'9", 155, like Tutu Atwell small. He's like he reminds me of Tank Dell, and Tank Dell, who came out, was super small, but Tank Dell's even a little bit bigger than Tez Johnson. I think Tank Dell and Tez Johnson's a pretty good comp though, because their size is close enough, and I think they're very similar, like athletes and route runners. And Dell's been a good player in the NFL, but he has had now torn his knee, I believe, twice, which the second one was pretty unlucky. He's definitely very small, but I think he's one of the guys that that will beat the, like the thresholds. Like people, there's like a threshold you gotta meet, but I think he'll be one of the exceptions. That's like a pretty solid player. The Titans have been killing it. I know like Harold Fannin Jr. kind of had a struggle day one. I think he did better today, but I still have my questions when it comes to Fannin. I wanted to talk about Fannin. I wonder if he could almost be like a fullback type of player too, because he is undersized for a tight end, but like I wonder if he could be like a fullback F tight end slot sort of hybrid player for some teams. Here he is on the outside right here. Here he is versus Jonas Sanker, who's one of my guys. Actually, pretty good rep by both guys. Like he's able to make the catch near the sideline. Sanker didn't give a ton of separation, but it still gets completed. I think, Fannin, one of my problems is he's not for a guy that's undersized, I feel like he's definitely too stiff at tight end, and that giving me some worries with him. But he was going out there and definitely throwing his body into people. Definitely willing to block. Could Green be like AVG? I think they're different players. I think Green is going to be a good player though at the next level. I think he is definitely someone that will be he's another one that will probably be seen as undersized, but I think he'll be fine rushing the passer. To me, there's guys that are undersized, but they play small, and that's when they don't work out the next level. Like I remember when people said like Devontae Smith was too small because like how skinny he was, but if you watch him coming out of Alabama, he played big, like he played stronger than his size. I think when you play small and are small, that's where you get hurt. When you're a guy that plays bigger than your size and you have the other tools like athleticism, instincts to back it up, I think, they'll be fine. It also depends where they end up. Like Harold Fannin Jr., he's small, and he's not a guy I want playing like inline wide tight end, but I think if he goes to the right team and finds the right role, he could still be like a good player. Think more of what like Jonnu Smith is for the Dolphins, like a bigger slot tight end or bigger slot receiver. Because Jonnu Smith is also, like not the biggest guy in the world when it comes to playing as a wide tight end. He is bigger than Fannin, but it's not like that crazy of a difference. Also another interesting player that I've been seeing, because he is a converted safety. This is, not the greatest quality, but this is Jeffrey Bassa, the Oregon linebacker. I've watched some of his film. I don't love his instincts versus the run, and I still need to see more. But he is a converted safety playing linebacker, and in the one-on-one drills versus running backs, like he's had some really good reps. Like you can see I'm saying square, patient, better feel for this, anticipate, and then look at the reactive athleticism to close, make a play on the ball. That's like what you want to see in those situations from those types of players, like the smaller linebackers. What's up, Brian? Nope, not that. Okay. Yep, there's more of that Mike Green clip that I was just looking at. I do like seeing this. I mean, I'm not the biggest. This is Jaden Higgins. I'm not the biggest Jaden Higgins fans. I think he's going versus Tommy Hill here. He gets absolutely cooked, which, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of him either. But Higgins, I do think he has good fit quickness. He's a bigger body X. He is able to separate vertically here. It is not something that I did see a ton on film, but if he can do this more consistently, more vertical separation, I'd be a much bigger fan, because I do think he actually does some good things in the slot as like a big slot, running routes, getting open, making contested catches in that area. It's just, I just haven't seen enough of him separating vertically like that. So hopefully that can become more of a consistent thing. Yeah. Zabel's a dog. And he's shown it at the Senior Bowl, and he had another strong day today. Quincy Riley's another one that I've heard good things about, the Louisville corner. I'm excited to watch his film. I haven't seen any of him at all, but I know he's had some good Senior Bowl practices. Where do you get your end zone film for your breakdowns? Well, some of the times I just get I have film of everyone. Sometimes I get clips from like other people have posted it on like Twitter or something like that. But like there's this person, he has a Patreon, and they have all 22, and they make like cut-ups of players, and then I just go to like a Google Sheets thing, and I just like pull up games, and I'll watch North Dakota State offensive line, and if they have that, I'll watch their film, and it's just like, it'll be the end zone view. Also, like if it's receivers, they have, you know, the cut-ups in like the all 22 sideline view stuff. Yeah. And then that's where I usually watch film. Sometimes I just get, if I've already watched films on someone and I don't want to go like back and like search through clips, I'll just find some other clips like in other places. But there's a Patreon for it. Here's a fun little matchup too. This is up here up top, Jalen Noel versus Thomas from Florida State, the corner. I have a Noel video already recorded and done, so that should be out soon too. Like, I mean, it's members. If you want to see it early, members have it right now. But look, he's a quick twitch route runner. Like, look how effective that route is. And Thomas, good man corner, one of the better man corners at the Senior Bowl. Probably will go late first, early second. You just see the explosiveness and the attention to detail too. Look at him, like the nuance in his route to like, he gives a slight little peek back. He slows his tempo and then accelerates, and the ability to decelerate is so important. I think that's something people is underrated with a lot of players. And it's the same thing with Tej Johnson. They're not only fast and explosive, but they have the ability to decelerate. Acceleration to deceleration is so important at a lot of positions, but especially receiver. Here's Tej Johnson versus the Florida State corner. Good player. And look what he does to him. Just look at him work into blind spots, the tempo in his route, and he's so loose laterally that it just gets this guy to open up his hips. He opens up his hips this way by selling the vertical. And then now once he's opened up his hips, he's worked back into the blind spot, then peeks the other way, which gets Thomas to freeze, and then breaks away. Just separation. Catch the ball with your hands. And he's not a guy that like you want to press him because he's super small, but like he's so quick twitch. If you don't get hands on him, he's gonna burn you off the ball. I think as long as he can stay healthy, Tej Johnson is going to be a good player. I don't think his size is going to hold back his play necessarily. Like I think he has a very specific way to win. Similar to Tank Dell, it's just hopefully he can stay healthy. But I'm a fan of Tej Johnson. Just as a player, I mean. I think he would fit the Dolphin system from like the Dolphins perspective. It's just we've already have some. I'm more looking for like a Jack Besh type, the bigger body receivers, and Jack Besh has also had a strong Senior Bowl. A guy I really like. I think today some of the guys in the trenches that stood out. These are some names people were talking about. Zabel. I know Marcus Bowe looked better today, which is nice to see because I know he had some struggles yesterday, and I like him from Purdue. And he was moving. He's been playing every position: center, guard, tackle. Anthony Belton, the NC State offensive lineman, has been pretty good, which I like to see because he has some fun stuff on film, and he's played tackle for them, but I think he might be a guard convert. Yeah, and then guys like Darius Alexander that we talked about, Green, Ezeriku. Oh yeah, here's a pick by Lindenberg, the Minnesota linebacker, just in zone, dropping as like a middle hook defender. Love seeing this. Like once number 2 works behind him, know that he's probably going to break to the inside, flow and opens up your hips, read the eyes, and then get the interception. Quality play there. Picking off, I don't know which quarterback that is. I'm guessing it's Hennigan again, but I can never tell. I know the quarterbacks have not been playing very good. Another player that's impressed me that I want to talk about more, and we haven't talked about much in the streams, and I probably will make a video on him eventually, but he's a tight end that I like in sort of that, after like the top tier of tight ends, is Terrence Ferguson, because he's got good size. I think he can do some of the inline Y blocking stuff. And I think for his size, like he's a pretty good mover. Like I feel like he looks fluid in his routes here. Good hand fighting on the field. Like he can make some catches. I feel like he's one of the more well-rounded tight ends. Like after like that group of like Mason Taylor, Gunnar Helm, those guys, I feel like Terrence Ferguson is a guy I like. This tight end class is so good. It's so good compared to years past. That's why I really want to come away with one. He also got like the penalty called for him, and he's just able to fight down the field. Tough catch. So many players. What guy gave Zabel the comparison to Eichenberg? I don't know. Did someone say that? I don't remember. I don't really see I don't see the comparison to Eichenberg. Thank God. But yeah, Lindenberg, we got that. Oh yeah, here's an example of 2 players that I've been wanting to talk about. One who's been good and one who has not been good. It seems Wyatt Millam has been one of the more struggling players at the Senior Bowl, which, not good for his stock. Maybe he falls down. He's been having to, here at guard, he played tackle in college, but he can't play. He doesn't have he even looked worse at tackle yesterday. And he's going versus Darius Alexander. Just, you can see the power, violent hands. Good job, like with his leverage, getting low, resetting, continuing to fight through, push him to the ground. Love seeing that out of Alexander. But Millam, showing a lack of an anchor, lack of balance there, getting wide. That was more of an Eichenberg type rep. So you want to see, better stuff from Millam. He has been one guy that's definitely hurt his stock. Yeah. Here's Donovan Ezeriku. I don't want to say his name, versus Connerly. Good fire off the ball and then bend and dip. Getting around Connerly, who, didn't have the greatest day this time around, but I still think Connerly will be fine. It's not the end all be all for these prospects just because they had a rough rep or 2. That's bound to happen, especially because it's not all happening in like live action play. Yeah, I would say for stock up, we talked about a little bit. I would say Darius, at least today, Darius Alexander. Another player that's maybe underrated and I haven't talked about a lot is the Washington State receiver, Kyle Williams. I think I have a clip to show later on. I'm still scrolling through. But he is a good, quick twitch sort of route runner that like understands how to get open. And that's one that's just like kind of flying under the radar. I haven't seen talked about too much, so I wanted to give him a little bit of props. There's a lot of players that have done good. And then I'm trying to think of like who else, because obviously I think Elijah Arroyo and Gray Zabel, they did it day 1 and day 2, but they've probably helped their stock the most through these days. But that's like kind of the obvious ones. I'm gonna throw Terrence Ferguson in there as well. And then stock down, it seems like Wyatt Millum. Who else was having kind of a struggle day? I know I didn't have the highest hopes for him, but Dellinger from LSU does not look good. People who have looked good, though, I would say Mason Taylor has looked quite good. LSU tight end, but I already knew how good he was. And then, let's see. I know Billy here. Actually, we have an example of them going against each other. Billy Bowman versus Mason Taylor. Billy Bowman, who loses this rep to Taylor, but has had a good Senior Bowl day, or 2 days actually. Here he just gets put to the ground. He loses his balance. But love seeing Taylor. I feel like Taylor looks really smooth in his route stem. Taylor's still a very young prospect as well. I think he's either 20 or 21, so very young. He's a guy that I really like. I have a video already done with him. It will probably be the next video out tomorrow. Taylor's just, he's smooth. He's fluid. He can run routes. He has very reliable hands. He can make some plays after the catch. He also can stay in line and block. Also, he's the son of Jason Taylor, so, you know. Who has been the most impressive looking one? One meaning nose tackle. Oh, out of the nose tackles, let me see if I've seen anything about the noses. Because I know Alexander's done good, and he's kind of someone that can play sort of across the line. I know the D line kind of shut out today. I know someone who I haven't really watched film on yet, but has been pretty good. Has been Josh Farmer, the Florida State D lineman. He's been making some good plays. Also, another player that's been stock up that I mentioned, Upton Stout, the corner from Western Kentucky. We'll talk about him in a sec. I remember, did I have this written down? D lineman. Yeah, I would say probably Farmer and Alexander have kind of been guys that have been better than expected. Can't remember the rest of the D line group. Let me look it up. What if I have? Go to the Rastus. Those are edges. D-line, okay. No, I know Ty Robinson had a pretty good day, but he's more of like a 3. Aeneas Peebles has looked good, Virginia Tech. He's also more of a 3 tech. Let's see, names. I know some people got hurt. I know, I think Walter Nolan got hurt and Deion Walker got banged up, which kind of just, not great. Yeah, I don't know if any other ones had really stood out, at least from what I've seen. TJ Sanders has had some good plays, but he's more of a 3 as well. Have you done a video on wide receiver Smith? What Smith are you talking about? Depends. I don't think I've done if you're talking about, are you talking about the Georgia receiver maybe? Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't be against taking 2 tight ends in this class either. Take one on day 2, one on day 3 somewhere. Wouldn't be a bad idea. But here we go. Some other O-linemen that had good days. Frazier, LSU offensive lineman. He even did some work at tackle. He's a good pass protector. I like him in pass protection. And he has some experience in zone scheme stuff. Miles Frazier, LSU guard. He probably goes day 2 somewhere, but he's very smart, aggressive. I think he has heavy feet. And his best run blocking is when pulling. So I don't necessarily love him as a fit for Miami. But he is a good player in this class. Lampkin, oh my god, the guy that's Lampkin's 5'10", 270, and he's going out there and having pretty good reps, which is kind of crazy at his size, playing offensive lineman. Willie Lampkin. He probably has to play center at the next level, so I'm not sure. I like him a lot, and I think he'd actually fit in Miami. It's just I don't think you can pair him up with Brewer and play him and Brewer next to each other because they're both so light. Slater's an interesting player from Sacramento State. Another player that's showed up, Clay Webb, some of the the lower school guys like Slater and Webb kind of shown up. I don't have film on them, so I don't really have an opinion on them yet because they have like, it's hard to find film on those guys, but they've looked pretty like they belong at the Senior Bowl. Another two guys who have looked like they belonged, Maxwell Hairston and Jalen Royals. Both of them, doing a decent job there. I don't know who the quarterback is, but that one adds up. I think, that's Milrow. So, but Royals fighting through contact, able to get up into it, lean, break away, creating separation. Hairston's been one of the better corners, kind of loses this rep, but very physical, very competitive player. I think Hairston is a good player in this class. Both day two guys, in my opinion. I like both of them a lot. Probably will do videos on both of them eventually. Thinking of Ricky White. Oh, Ricky White, yeah. I have not done a video on White. I probably will eventually. Ricky White is a fun player that I do think fits Miami. He's probably a day three guy. But one of the best things about Ricky White is he's an elite special teamer. Ricky White goes, I'm pretty sure he has, I don't know the exact number, but I know it's over 5. He's blocked over 5 punts in his career. So you want a guy that's an elite special teamer at receiver, that's your guy, Ricky White. Excited to get some film because I know Slater's looked good and he's interesting. Another guard. Some guys that you can probably get later, and he's done good in these 101s. Milrow's looking rough. Yeah, all of the QBs have pretty much looked rough from everything I've heard and seen. But that's this class. This is not a class to want a quarterback in. It really ain't. That's why I'm just at this point, I'm just I grab a veteran in free agency and don't even worry about quarterback because it's not like any of these rookies are going to really help for 1 year anyways. So just grab a veteran that fits the system. And then if the year fails, then they're going to blow it up anyways, and they're going to bring in all new players anyways for the new coaching staff. That's why I'm kind of I'm not even for taking a quarterback. It just feels like it's a waste of a pick for the regime, this current regime. And I don't mind throwing a late pick on a quarterback, but it's not like that. Those rarely ever, bring anything either. Good rep here from Mac McWilliams, one of my guys, UCF corner. First, Felton from Maryland, the receiver. McWilliams, very good man corner. Very instinctive, good feel. Love this. Look at he throws the fake jam off the line, gets Felton to commit, now stays in the hip pocket, feels the break, gets hands on hips, plays through hands. He's a guy that I think can play outside and inside at the next level. He's got that aggressive mindset. And he's also a pretty good zone corner as well. So definitely a player really like that rep from McWilliams. Oh. Yeah, Dart, from what I've seen and heard, has also not been super great. We have seen the Dolphins O-line coach there, their assistant O-line coach. He is working with a lot of guys that I like. Like he's working with Zabel, I'm pretty, and Connerly and stuff. And we've seen videos of that. I've seen it on Twitter of him working with them. I'm pretty sure Zabel was one of the first people on the field, and he was getting it early in work with the Dolphins assistant line coach. So that's always nice to have. They could really like Zabel. I hope they do, because Zabel is a dog, and I feel like he would be a guy that would come in and probably start for the Dolphins very quickly. I think he'd be pretty ready, and I'd be willing to go through some growing pains with a rookie. Because I don't think it would be worse than last year. Let's see. Dolphins, yeah, I do agree. The Dolphins. I'm a big Jack Besh fan for the Dolphins at receiver, because Jack Besh is in that 6'1", 6'2", 215 range. I think he's 6'2", 215. He was a former tight end at LSU. And he has had some really good reps at the Senior Bowl. Let's see if I have any, actually. Here it is, actually. This one is Milrow to Besh. In the slot fade, right here. He is someone that's been getting open a lot in 101s. here on the slot fade, getting physical down the field. Look at him bully the DB. They're hand fighting. He's able to create some late separation with them pulling, fighting, and then comes down with it. Tough catch. He's also a guy that I think fits the Dolphins system for a big body guy, because I think he can go to and he can almost be used like how the Rams receivers are used. And obviously McVay runs a similar-ish system to the Dolphins. He kind of gives me those vibes. Do you think? Yeah, I think Zabel does have a chance to go second. It's always tough to say at this point. Like, things definitely can change, but things change rapidly. But like, I've seen North Dakota State offensive lineman go in the second before, and he's having a very solid Senior Bowl. And he seems like a high character guy, which always, I think, plays in good with teams. And he's got a good trade. So like, I would say day 2 somewhere, second or third. It's tough to know with guards, because sometimes guards fall farther than expected, and sometimes they go a little bit higher than expected. I think in this class, some of those guards that you maybe thought were going to go in the second round will be there in the third, maybe even the fourth. That's just kind of how it plays out. But yeah, you can probably. That's why I like. I mean, with Besh, I think you can. He's probably gonna, you don't have to spend super high capital on him, at least from what I'm guessing. Jackson Dart, yeah, Jackson Dart has been struggling. Yeah, hey, maybe you never know with QBs. They could, but I personally don't see it. I don't see it on the film. I haven't seen it at the Senior Bowl. Like, I get like he has some traits to work with, but he doesn't have elite traits either. Like, he's not an elite athlete. He doesn't have an elite arm. And he plays in a system that is super QB friendly, like things that he's not going to do at the next level. But I don't know. I think this class teams might have, because it's happened before where teams just don't take QBs early. I know last year was a very good class. Pretty much all those guys that went in the top 12 would probably go, even like Bo Nix and Penix would probably go at the top of this class. And we've seen when there's a bad class, we've seen teams, like the last time there was a bad class was the Kenny Pickett class, and Pickett was the only QB to go round 1, and he didn't go until like the 20 range. I think this class is slightly better, but I think I only think 2 guys are going to go in the top 10. And then outside of that, I don't know if any other are going to go in the first round. Depends if people trade up, trade back. Yeah. Yeah, and Pickett was the only one to go in the first. And it wasn't until like the 20s. Also could be Milrow, because Milrow is also not good, but he at least has better traits to work with. Tate Rutledge, yeah. Well, I don't think, Rutledge isn't playing, right, at the Senior Bowl. Which kind of sucks, because I wanted to see him. Because I've watched a little bit of film, and I'm always looking for guards, because Dolphins need some guard help, especially because I think some of these guys, like in the first round, I don't really expect the Dolphins to take a pure guard at 13. Like, I don't expect them to take. They could, I guess, but I don't really expect them to go like pure guard, whoever the top guard is, like Tyler Brooker. I do think they could take a tackle like Banks or Campbell or a Membo that could play guard for you in year 1 or 2, like for the first couple years. That just feels like how the team values guard. Like, they still want to take some guards, but I think round 1, they probably want to take someone who will be the most impactful for the team. That's why I think in free agency, they're going to try to get guard shored up as much as possible. Backup QB, Mac Jones, lock, rush. Honestly, the best backup QB for the Dolphins is probably, even though I don't like him, but for the Dolphins is probably Garoppolo. Just because he understands the system. And he's always been much better playing in that Shanahan style. He could at least run it. Most backup QBs don't have the skill set to play in that style of system. That's why most of the time when they see him come in, they just don't play good. But I don't know. I don't even know all the backup QBs are yet. I'd have to look at. Mac Jones is a no for me personally. Lock, I don't think fits. Rush isn't the worst option, but it isn't my favorite. Yeah. Yeah, I hope the Dolphins just take best player available at 13. I think the Dolphins have so many positions that are needed that like corner, even corner. Like I know people maybe not want a corner, but if corner is best player available, I think corner is enough of a need where you should take it. I think safety, probably not off-ball linebacker because I don't think any off-ball linebackers are worth the 13th unless you think Jalen Walker, but he's more of a tweener and he's someone who would be in play. I still think like edge and D tackle could potentially be in play if that's what they wanted to do. I'd probably wait on that, but offensive line, Tyler Warren potential, maybe even a receiver if one of them falls that you weren't expecting. But Andy Dalton, Brissett, yeah, Andy Dalton's not a bad shout if he is still looking to play because Dalton's not a bad backup, and I think he's not a bad scheme fit. Brissett is not a bad backup, but I don't think this system is great for him. What's your thoughts of Morrison? Benjamin Morrison, the Notre Dame corner? Let me see what my notes are. Do I have notes of Morrison? Yeah, I do. Okay. Yeah, he didn't play much this season due to the injuries. So I watched a lot of 2023 film. But he's one of the better corners in the class. I think he's a very like technical player, and man, I think he plays with like good bend, technique, body lean. He's staying square. He's got good feet. Stays patient. He can play. He is a guy that has pretty good versatility because I think he can play like press man and match up versus a lot of guys. Like I think he's got enough athleticism and size to do that. And I also think he's like pretty aware in zone, which also is helpful. So to me, I think Morrison's like a top 5 corner in the class. I think the top 5 in no order specifically is Hunter, if you have Travis Hunter as a corner. Will Johnson, Siobhan Ravel, another guy that has injuries, but I really like Ravel from Eastern Carolina. Really good player, but he had the injury this season. Morrison. And then I think the 5th guy could be a few different people. Either Thomas from Florida State, Amos from Ole Miss, or even like a Hairston maybe. And I'm probably forgetting someone, but that's kind of how I see like the top group. And there's other guys I really like. Jacob Parrish is a guy I like a lot. Yeah, honestly, I don't really have a preference yet for what the Dolphins do round 1. I'm waiting for free agency to play out before I really sort of hone in on like a specific position or like players because free agency will change the Dolphins' needs probably because depending on who they like to get. Yeah, I do think the Dolphins should try to change their identity because they have been, since McDaniel has been here, have been a pass-first team. Even when they were the number one in 2023, when they had led the league in like yards per carry, they were still a pass-first team for the most part. That's why I'm not against the idea of bringing in a running back that's like a workhorse, like someone that you can really workhorse behind. And then you can use Achane as the change of pace, but also use him as like a pure receiver, really maximize Achane's skill set. And then also I think just how you're off, that's why I want more tight ends like we talked about Warren or, you know, one of the blocking tight ends that would help change that. You had guards that would help you build more of a run first identity. And then it would also, I think, help out your passing game. It would help make life easier on your O-line pass blocking. It would make Tua's life easier because Tua's very good off play action. It also would allow you to push the ball down the field more off of play action, like take deeper shots. I think that's the best idea for the offense is becoming more of a run first team. Takes the pressure off certain things. You still are capable of being pass heavy if you need to be. But I think it helps you in especially in situations where you haven't been great, which has been for the Dolphins, you know, in cold weather games on the road, being able to run the ball usually is a big help. Yeah, Russell Wilson's probably one of the better options as a player to have, but another one where it's, you would have, if Wilson comes in, you can't run the same scheme that you run with Tua. You know what I'm saying? Because surprisingly, Wilson and Tua are probably two of like, when it comes to their passing abilities, are like two of the most opposite QBs you'll see. Tua is a very middle of the field attacking quarterback, while Russell Wilson tries to never throw it to the middle of the field. throws pretty much just vertical balls the whole time. Gunnar Helm, yeah. Gunnar Helm's a good tight end option for them to do that if they don't go like Warren in the first, or they tailor Helm, and then maybe if they don't get them later on, they go out like Ferguson or Haas. I still have to watch more. Arroyo has looked really good at Senior Bowl, and he has the size to be a potential inline tight end. It's just not something he did at Miami, and I don't know if he can do it. But Arroyo is a good player. This tight end class is so good. Even the guys that I don't love for Miami, they're good. Like Loveland, even like Fannin, Beringstool, some other sleepers like the Luke Lachey, Iowa tight end is a good route runner. Here is a corner who's been actually kind of underrated that I hadn't seen before the Senior Bowl. The Western Kentucky kid, Upton Stout. He's looked pretty good in these man-to-man drills. Here's one-on-one carrying down the field. He looks comfortable, not falling for any moves. He's being competitive, not panicking either down the field. Open up his hips, seems pretty fluid. Good, looks like he's got some good like quickness and speed to him. He's been one of the guys that's kind of stood out to me. I don't have his film, so I don't have too many like crazy opinions on him, but like he's someone that looks solid in these drills or in like all the clips I've seen. Let me see. I really hope we trade down to get another day 2 or early day 3 pick. Yeah, if that's in the cards, I'm definitely like, if we can, it depends obviously who's on the board, but it's definitely something that you have to consider. We never played draft picks in year 1. Chop played because he had to. Draft class has to make an impact. Yeah, well, since the McDaniel era, we hadn't really had too many draft picks play day 1, but that's because we didn't really have any round 1 or round 2 picks before this final year. So I don't think they're against playing young guys because like they were willing to play Chop and Paul, and it's not like were willing to play Malik. Maybe not day 1, but they were willing to start them year 1 and give them opportunities. I think this year they're going to have to start at least a couple guys. They don't have the resources, I think, to fill every hole. Yeah, Arroyo, that's why like I really like Arroyo as a player, but he is more of an F tight end. It's just he does have the size. Like he's 6'5", 250. He has the size to play as like he has what most Ys look like. It's just he didn't really do that at all at Miami, which is unfortunate because I do like him a lot as a player. And I think he's raising his stock a lot, which I don't mind. Like raise the stock of yourself as a tight end. We can get more of a tight end that we need. But I'm also not against taking like an F tight end later on in the draft. Like say you take your Y in the second, and then you're in like the 5th round, and one of the F tight ends that's like a good route runner is there. I don't mind taking 2 tight ends because they're tight ends that play 2 different positions. And they can still be a threat for your team. And like once you get to day 3, you shouldn't worry too much about position. You should really just take who's the best player available. If Genty dropped you at 13, would you pull the trigger? I would actually consider it. It depends who else is on the board. But if like all my favorite guys are gone, I actually don't think Genty is the worst pick ever, especially in this draft. I think running back at 13, like the best running back in this class. And if you listen, Jim Nagy said like Jim Nagy, the Senior Bowl guy, he said he's talked to teams that only have 8, 9, 10 first round picks. So by the time we get to 13, all the Dolphins first round players could be gone. Except for if the Genty's one of them, then it could be Genty. And the reason I would consider is what I talked about earlier. Changing your identity. He's one of the players that would help change your identity. It's just, it would depend how free agency plays out. And it depends who's on the board. Because if there's like a stud offensive lineman or one of the other guys I really like, I would go in that direction. But if they're all gone, Raheem Sanders as workhorse. As a workhorse, no. Like, I don't think he's like, he has the size, but I don't think he's good enough to be a workhorse. He's a guy that could be a part of your rotation. And I'm not saying like we're gonna have like a full-on workhorse. Like, still, even if they drafted like say Genty, Achane and Wright would still be plenty of work. It's just Achane would be on the field in other situations. He would be playing receiver and stuff. I just think I think you should put yourself in a situation where Achane doesn't need to be getting 20 carries in a game. You want him to be more getting like 12 carries and then getting him like 8 targets. And then while also just allowing him to run around and being valuable. I do not, Mikey. I don't see Membo falling to round 2. I've seen like a lot of people who are like the mock drafts and like rankings from people who are like actually know what's going on. They have sources like the Dane Bruglers, the Daniel Jeremiahs. They have those guys going high. Like Membo might be gone by the time the Dolphins' first pick rolls around. Like, that's a real possibility at this point. Because I think he's put himself up there with the Campbells and the Banks and stuff like that. The Simmons. By draft, you think Alfred Collins jumps into the first round? I would say no, but it wouldn't surprise me. I really like Alfred Collins. I think he probably goes round 2. Just because that's usually where the 1 techs go. But who knows? As we've talked about this class, maybe a lot of the second rounders, because there's not many first rounders, get bumped into day 1. So people will go a little earlier than expected. I've also heard like there's not a lot of consensus among teams. Like I've heard from people who have sources in the league. They will be like, oh yeah, teams have some very different boards. Usually it's pretty close, and then there'll be like a couple outliers. Like, there's not a big consensus. So the draft could be just wild. Shamar Stewart, Texas A&M at 13 because he fit, yeah. If they wanted to go edge, it would not surprise me if they really liked Stewart. And he is also like a good complement to Chop because Stewart's a much bigger player than Chop was. Both super freak athletes, but Stewart's more of like a bigger guy that could set the edge. He'd also even play some interior for you potentially. That's why I wouldn't be that against Stewart, because one, he is kind of a high upside guy, but you could also play him like interior reps because he is like 6'6", 280. He's a huge edge and he's freakishly. Wouldn't be my top choice though, because I don't think he would be. I think there's just bigger impacts to be had on this team. Oh, we dropped. Hopefully I'm back. Okay, I'm at 0. Okay. I'm just going to let this roll out, hopefully. I probably can't even be heard. Okay. Am I back? I think it said my thing dropped to 0, so I was probably out of it for probably frozen. Genty and Achane would be disgusting to do with the NFL player. Yeah, it would, and it definitely is not the worst strategy to have, I think, this year. Because I think like he would be one of the more impactful players you could probably take, like right away at least. You got to think of it. You also have to think from like the team's perspective. They might change up the strategy a bit. Because in the past, like some of the picks last year, like Patrick Paul, even Chop a little bit, they were more picks like I think for the future of the team rather than like instant impact. But I think now with Greer and McDaniel being like, okay, this might be the last chance. So I think they might want to take more instant impact players. Yeah, it looks very good. To answer your question, Dro, I think the disparity thing, I think one of the main reasons is because, one, it's a very big class. The whole COVID thing has pushed people back. Like, apparently, they usually, like the senior rule, they said they watch around 400 to 500 players each year. This year, their list was 700 to 800. So, one, just more players. 2, them only having like 8 to 13 first-round grades when usually they have like 20 to 21 first-round grades on average. The strength of the class being like the depth on like day 2. So I think there being such a, strong depth part of the class, but not top end, that players are getting bumped up that usually wouldn't be bumped up because of just how the class is. So I think the disparity is like there's so many players that are like even in the middle of the class that teams don't exactly agree on all of them on exactly where they should go. But yeah, yeah, I was lagging it. I think I'm good now though. At least it says I'm not dropping frames anymore. But I was like frozen for a hot second. Who would you prefer at Garza's tackle, Mimbo or Bo? I would prefer the Missouri kid. I like both, but I think Missouri tackle, right tackle / guard is just better. As a prospect, when you look at like his physical traits, even though I like both a lot. Ja'Cory Brooks. Yeah, Ja'Cory Brooks is a pretty solid player late rounds. Scatabo, Arizona State. I've seen, it depends. I probably will do a video on Scatabo pretty soon. I was actually hoping he was at the Senior Bowl. It looks like he's not. I haven't really seen him. I don't think he's participating. But it looks like Scatabo's film actually kind of reminds me of a David Montgomery type. And he's someone that, like, if you looked at him, he doesn't exactly fit what the Dolphins do schematically, but he is the exact type of player the Dolphins need from, like, where they struggled. They really struggled on short yardage and in the red zone. That was where they really struggled last year to get things done. Their short yardage situations were so bad, and Scatabo is so good in those situations that if he was there in like day 3, which I think that's where he should go personally. I think like round 4 is like a really good spot for him. Day 2, I don't think the Dolphins should do it, but if he does happen to be there in day 3 with one of your picks, I would definitely be down to throw a dart at him because he fits into what you're missing at that position for the Dolphins. And even if he's just a short yardage guy, I think that's enough value for what a day 3 pick would bring. Because the Dolphins were so bad in short yardage. And he's also pretty good in other situations. I think he's got good like lateral quickness for his size, like for being like he's not tall, but he's thick. But I think that helps him with like lower center of gravity, running through like contact balance. He also has got pretty good hands too. He's not really an outside zone back, but yeah. Which the Dolphins are a heavy outside zone team, but we have other concepts to be ran. Like, yeah, he would replace what Brooks was supposed to be, or he would replace like what Jeff Wilson was, but you would have to put him in those situations. He also could even take like wildcat snaps. Like he could be like that player, like a wildcat quarterback on short yardage. And we need toughness. We need dogs. He's one of those guys. Like we've talked about Besh at receiver. He's one of those toughness dogs. We've talked about some of the offensive linemen that are like that. We've talked about some of the tight ends that are like that. He would be the running back that's like that. Membo or Anthony Belton? Membo. I like Anthony Belton, potential day 2 guy. I don't know if he can play guard though. I've only seen him at tackle. I want to see more of him at guard at the Senior Bowl, so we'll be interested to see that. If he can play guard, I like him for the Dolphins because he's got some dog in him too. I think Membo's just a first round player. Give me a good free agent guard. Warren, Zabel, Besh, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, defense. Yeah. Collins in the second. If the Dolphins took Collins in the second and Shamar Stewart in the first, I mean, I think the only reason I'm not I don't mind that is like players wise is like value. It's just I don't know if that improves the Dolphins from last year to this year. You know, I feel like I'm looking at it as almost like how can the Dolphins improve? One year they were at one area they were actually pretty strong at was their defensive front, like getting pressure and stopping the run. So adding Collins into Stewart would continue to make that a strength. But I don't think that really overall improves you. I mean, Collins would be replacing Calais most likely, and he would help you. You would probably get worse at pass rushing because Calais was a good pass rusher. You'd still be a very solid run defense because Collins is a very solid run defender. And then Stewart, I think, is more of a developmental guy, and he can make some impact plays, but he would do better than Ogba, but also like you would probably you're gonna have Phillips back next year, so he would be your third guy after Phillips and Chop. And also, if Chubb is still here, he'll be your 4th guy. So at least in year 1, and I think the Dolphins are looking to take players that are year 1 impacts because they need to save their jobs. What about Taj Brooks? Does he remind you of anyone? Ooh, like trying to think. Taj is Taj is also kind of in that same mold of what we were talking about with Scatabo. The shorter, very thick players. Like I'm trying to think of like Taj is almost like that as well. Like not quite Montgomery though. But I do like Taj. Like I really like his feet for a guy with his body type, contact balance. He's another one that kind of fits into that sort of mold. Yeah, Irving. We've talked about Besh. I've shown some film of him, some clips. I showed a lot yesterday. I think we have. I showed this one here. I'll show it again. This is actually. Oh no. Oh, I messed it up. Okay, here we go. Here's one of him catching the slot fade. This was more in like when they were doing team drills, getting physical down the field, throwing it up, making a tough catch. He's had a good Senior Bowl from what I've seen. Like the one-on-ones, the team drills, he's made good plays. He's gotten open. When he didn't get open, he made tough catches down the field. I love Besh. Besh is a very tough player for me to predict where he's going to go. Because he doesn't seem to have like a consensus. Here's actually another Besh clips. Here he is against Maxwell Hairston getting some revenge. Because Hairston was the one who got him yesterday. Hairston getting open at the top of the route, making another tough catch below the frame, creating separation with physicality, quickness. Love seeing that. Just love his competitiveness. I don't know. Besh, I really don't know where he's going to go. I'm going to guess like round 3 for Besh. That's if I had to guess. Who can play fullback? I talked about earlier. I haven't seen any fullbacks in this class, but I wonder if Harold Fandon Jr., the tight end from Rolling Green, would actually be a better fullback at the next level, just because he's kind of built like a fullback, and he could also still play like slot receiver. And for his size, like he's not the best. Like he's not that bad at blocking for his size. Like he throws his bodies into things. So I want to kind of see him play fullback, because if he could play like a fullback but also be a receiving threat, that actually might be the best thing for his career, because I just think he's too stiff to play as like a pure receiving tight end. Jordan Phillips, Maryland defensive tackle. I have found some clips on him, so he's someone I plan to do a film breakdown on, so I'll get into details, like deep details on that. But he looked good at the Shrine Bowl. Like for like his size, 320, like he's pretty explosive and powerful at the point of attack. He's a potential, since he went to the Shrine Bowl, maybe day 3 guy, like round 4 maybe. He looks interesting. Billy Bowman Jr. versus CJ Dupree, the tight end. Bowman has had a strong Senior Bowl, knocking that ball out. He's kind of an undersized safety from Oklahoma that can play some nickel-ish type thing. He's instinctive, quick, that sort of type of safety. Also, speaking of fullback, one more thing. I saw people saying, since Willie Lampkin, the North Carolina offensive lineman, since he's 5'10", 270, I saw people saying like they should just put him at fullback, which that would be interesting. That would be interesting, because he is for a guy of his size, he goes out there and blocks some big guys at O-line. Oh yeah, Brandon said it. I didn't even see that. Oh, and T said it. You both said it. I literally didn't even see it. I just remember I saw it earlier, someone say that on Twitter, but then you both just mentioned it without even looking at the comments. That's funny. Alfred gets underrated with pass rush at D-tackle because he had another guy who was doing that at Texas. I think, definitely scheme can play into it, but I also don't think that, like, when he did, like, try to pass rush, it was not natural for him. Like, I think he doesn't have a great feel for pass rushing. I think he has the physicality and athleticism for it, but clearly needs to work on his bag and just instincts there. Not a bad shout, Lee. He's looked pretty good at the Senior Bowl from what I'm seeing. Late rounds, yeah, I definitely would be down. Let's see. I talked about him a little bit earlier. Receiver, Kyle Williams. I haven't really seen too much talk about Kyle Williams, but he has a quick twitch. Here he's getting open versus Kone, who I like too from Western Michigan. You can see the quick twitch, the good feel, the manipulation with the eyes, you know, feel for tempo, peek to the outside, break across inside. He seems like one of the good route running types, and from everywhere I've heard him talk about, like, it seems like, you know, he's pretty much considered a day 3 guy, so he's definitely interesting. And those were the clips I wanted to show, so. Holland Pierce. I haven't watched Holland Pierce. I'll have to check him out. I've heard the name, but I have to check him out. Let's see. Oh. Yeah. Well, I wasn't really saying Kyle Williams for the Dolphins specifically, but he's just a good player. Here's a pretty good rep actually from both guys. You'd see Jackson Slater the Sacramento State guy, versus Walter Nolan, D tackle, and Nolan is explosive and powerful at the point of attack. And here's Slater sort of, you know, taking him on, resetting his feet, bringing his hips back across. I would say that's pretty much mostly a win for Slater. Nolan creates a little bit of a push, but I feel like Slater widens him enough. He looks pretty uncomfortable on the interior, playing with some pretty good feet as well, pretty good base. And Nolan's probably a guy that goes first round somewhere. At least from what I heard people talk about him. Yeah. Apparently Armand Mimbo, the Missouri guy, he showed up and is he was gonna play, but he had like a bad stomach flu, so he didn't get to compete. Also, I haven't heard much of the running backs, but apparently Brashard Smith has really impressed at running back. He's the SMU guy, and he's basically like he played even some receiver at SMU. So think like what Tony Pollard was at Memphis. Was Tony Pollard Memphis? He's one of the blue schools. I think it was Memphis. They play like a running back receiver hybrid, and he's intriguing. Here he is running a route actually, like versus a linebacker. You to match up a linebacker. You want a receiving back in this class? Smith might be he's definitely one of those guys. Him, Blue from Texas. Pretty good late hands, definitely comfortable. You know, if those guys are there on day 3, it's never too bad to throw a dart at those guys. Here we even got Clay Webb. I forget which school this is, but he's another small school guy versus Walter Nolan. Having a good rep here, widening him. Nolan's able to spin off late, but always, nice seeing small school guys compete. But yeah. Some other, we talked about most of the day 2 standouts. Pretty sure Carson Vincent, the Alabama A&M guy, had another good day from what I saw. I don't have the clips ready, but he's been someone. Quincy Riley, Louisville corner, man-to-man stuff. And then all the other people we talked about, like Besh, Taylor, Slater, Zabel. All guys that I kind of like for the Dolphins. Any punters? Never. I remember crush at RB Scatterbo. I like Scatterbo. He's a franchise player. He might be he'll be a whatever team he goes to, he'll be a fan favorite. I don't know if he'll be a franchise player, but he'll be a fan favorite. Yeah, T. I heard about Ware, Marcus. I think Marcus Ware, right? I knew he had a pretty solid Shrine Bowl. I'll be once I get his film. Thoughts on the Kyron Lacey situation? Honestly, I haven't seen much, but like, I know there was like, I don't know. I mean, I would just avoid that whole situation, to be honest. Any RB in this draft? I mean, a lot of the running backs do have some size. I don't know if any of them will convert to fullback. At least not any of the ones that I've watched yet, but I know there's some of the guys that are like later on in the draft that I haven't watched yet. They're like big, so maybe they could. Impactful on special teams. Yeah, there's we talked about Ricky White. Ricky White, the receiver, he is like, he's blocked a ton of punts in his career. Like, he's a very good special teams player. Carson Schwessinger, the UCLA linebacker that I like a lot, his special teams film's really good. Like him on like kickoff and stuff, he goes down and makes tackles. I know there's a few guys here like Justin Barron, him and Darian Porter, the corner from Iowa State. They've all played like a lot of special team snaps. Like guys that can be like 4-tool special teams players. So other guys will be on like kickoff, kick return, punt return, that type of thing. Willie Lampkin, yeah. We talked a little about Willie. I like him. He's fun to watch, and I think he has good film. It's just, I think he's so small, he probably has to be a center at the next level. Like, and the Dolphins have a center, you know, and I don't think you can play him guard next to Brewer, because then you would have two of the lightest offensive linemen in the league. But he is a dog, and we talked about earlier, like some people think of putting him at fullback, because he does play with like he plays a lot of physicality, and he is a good mover. Obviously, he's got to be a good mover to play at 5'10", 270. But I do believe like there's not really been anyone that light in the NFL. But I do believe in exceptions. I do believe there are people that break the rules that you follow. I don't think you should just always stick to these thresholds like that people have. Like some people will be like, there are people who will not have him on his board because of his size. And to me, it's like, hey, if he falls far enough, why not throw something at him? Like, I've seen enough on film for me to think he has a chance. Like, there's some people who like wouldn't touch a certain player because they're too small, or you know, whether it's height, weight, situation. But yeah. Yeah, it's almost like it'd be like what the Chargers put like that D lineman at fullback, even though I don't think he did that good, but they put him at fullback. I feel like Lampkin would be even better because he actually knows how to block. That's the difference, is they always put D lineman there, and sometimes it works out. Like obviously, Pierce from the Ravens was a D lineman in college. His name's Pierce, right? Am I forgetting? But yeah, he was one of those guys. Yeah, Aaron Donald, another good shot. Like Aaron Donald was very small for a D tackle coming out. That's why I feel pretty good about like Aeneas Peebles. Peebles is also a very small player, but the film backs it up. And to me, those players are like the type of players that like they fall a little bit farther than they should just because of that stuff. And to me, those are the guys that are like, okay, it's far enough to where like, might as well take a chance with my, you know, I got a day 3 pick. Might as well. Okay. Write down these names. Gotta write down names that I need to watch. Okay, cool. Have you spoken on tight end yet? Yeah, well, not much this. I've talked a little bit about them, but tight end has probably been the position. I'll be honest, I think tight end's probably the position we've talked about most this offseason because I'm a big fan of adding tight end. But yeah, to talk about those three specifically, I think Fannin struggled yesterday but played better today from what I saw in clips. I do think he's pretty stiff, and I do think like he might even be a better fullback the next level like we talked about. I do think he was like can make an impact still as a player. Like I'm not completely out on him. I think I'm just a slightly lower on him than consensus, especially for the Dolphins. I think he's more in that Jonnu Smith type of tight end, like an F tight end. Plays a big slot. You get him manufactured touches. He's good with the ball in his hands. Arroyo's looked really good at their Senior Bowl, especially at his size. Like for being 6'5", 250, he moves really well, and I think he's a very good downfield route runner. He's another guy I don't love for the Dolphins because I don't think he's an inline Y. I need to see more film if he can do that. I don't think he can. At least it's not something he's shown yet. And then Taylor, I love Taylor. I think Taylor's a great fit for Miami. What they need to be like, what they need at that position. Taylor, Helm, Warren, yeah. Yeah. A lot of the Iowa State guys are big. Yeah, well, I mean, I just think Warren's the better player in my opinion, but like I'm also I understand like the thinking of like, hey, we don't need to take tight end in round 1 because the tight end class is so good. We can get another position and then we go tight end in round 2 or 3 and still get like a solid player that can contribute. Who is a safety we haven't talked about? Let me see. Who are some safeties? Talked about these guys. I said corners earlier. I forgot to say Jahdae Barron. He's in my top 5 very easily. I forgot to mention that. I don't know why. Okay. Any safeties we haven't talked about? Not really. Not at least ones that I haven't watched yet. We talked a little bit about Bowman. That's like the first time we talked about Billy Bowman. From Oklahoma, he's interesting. But like, talked about Castro, Sinker. At least the safeties that I've watched, and I know some of them are at the Senior Bowl. Yeah, and crush it. Torrey Horton. I like Horton. I don't love him though. There's guys I really like a receiver are Besh, Caden Prather, like for Dolphins, like big body that they're looking for. If you want another big body guy, Alec Amanor. And then just other guys I like, just in general, just as receivers in this class, not necessarily like they could go to Miami, they could not. I like Ibuka. I like Tez Johnson, Xavier Restrepo, Jalen Royals, Jalen Noel, Matthew Golden. Those guys I think are just being good players at the NFL level. Yeah, Mukaba. Mukaba is one of my favorite players in the whole class. I've just talked about him a lot. Yeah. Any? Okay. Here. Any more questions? Because that was all the things I really wanted to talk about. Dion, I honestly don't really. I mean, maybe Rucci gives you something, but I'm not really counting on it. Like, I think he could be still like a practice squad guy, or like maybe your last tight end on the roster. Yeah, I don't know why I said Pierce earlier. It's obviously it was Patrick Ricard. Just came back to me. Stupid. But yeah, I think he's I just see him as a practice squad tight end. Maybe he improves and gets better. It's just I think he's a limited athlete, and I think for me to like for you to be like a blocking tight end only, you have to really blow me away with your blocking, and I was never like crazy impressed. Like you would have reps every now and then, but I just think this is a year you get tight end, and because the draft class is so good. What's up, Gran? Top 2 free agent guard targets. I mean, well, Trey Smith would be one, but he's too expensive, so it's not necessarily where I would go. I think let me just pull up the free agents just be sure, because I think Will Fries is a good shout from Indianapolis, because I don't think he should be too crazy expensive, you know? And then let me just look at all the. Let's go. Nope, not tight end. O-line, okay. And then probably like James Daniels, Will Fries, some other guys that you could know is maybe Patrick McCarry, the Ravens O-lineman. Will Hernandez is another name that's intriguing from Arizona. But I think Fries and Daniels is probably two of the better options that are pretty solid fits for what the Dolphins need. And shouldn't be like crazy expensive. Alright, ready to go. Four safeties. He's not talking about Shamar Simmons. I haven't seen Simmons. Shiloh Sanders is horrible. No offense to Shiloh, but like he is not good. And then the USC safety I've seen a little bit. And I haven't seen Craig Woodson, so I'll check those guys out. I have seen Maxon Hook. He's at the Senior Bowl. I watched his film because he was in that group the Dolphins DB is in, and to me he just looked like a special teams guy. Box safety. He can play an underneath zone, but he's a limited athlete, but he's like a high effort guy. Are you gonna do a video on Demetrius Knight, the linebacker? I might. He's someone who I'm considering. I've seen film on him. I would say I'm like middle of the pack on Knight. Yeah, I think that's probably we're gonna end it today. Gonna do another. I think tomorrow is their day 3 of practice, like the last one really. So we will stream that tomorrow. So see you guys tomorrow. Keep an eye out on my next film breakdowns. I got a bunch of them already filmed and ready to go. So there you guys.